Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my co-host, Michael Hall. The Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. We are rejoined by Ethan Cadeaux of NBC Sports Washington. How are you doing on this very crazy, warm Thursday evening, sir?
A lot better than I was doing a few days ago, where I had to wear 3 to 4 layers just to step out of my house. So it was good to just wear a long sleeve or a hoodie today. I actually left my jacket in the car when I got to Ashburn, which was nice. And yeah, just enjoying this weather. Not super pumped for this game in a few minutes, but everything else has been solid.
Yeah, it was really funny. Me and my son, I took him to Target to go get some stuff, and there was a kid there in a Commander's hat who was wearing like a muscle shirt. I was like, dude, like, it's warm. It's not that warm, though, bro. You know, calm down a little bit.
Put a hoodie on.
Right, exactly. But speaking of warm, let's hot takes here. Carson Wentz has been nominated as the starter going for this game. Obviously not forward because they have to win this game based on the quarterback scenario here. But Carson Wentz is getting the start this weekend against the Browns, who are 6-9. They're 2-5 in away games so far this season, Ethan. So what are your expectations for Wentz in this game?
I think the funniest part about Wentz expectations is I've learned to not have expectations with this guy. He can go out there and easily throw for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns and look like a top 10 guy in this league. But on the other hand, he can easily throw 3 picks in the first half, and 30 minutes into the game, the whole entire fan base is coming for Ron Rivera's head, asking why he made this switch in the first place. So anything in that range of possibilities wouldn't surprise me. I think what they're hoping for is he provides a little bit of a spark for an offense that really has struggled to score more than 20 points. That word spark is directly what both Ron Rivera and Scott Turner have used to describe the move. I'm not necessarily sure either one of these guys is capable of providing said spark, but I respect them for doubling down on the move they kind of stuck their neck out this offseason to make. And I guess it's kind of like, if you're going to go down, you're going to go down trying or sticking with your gut. So I would say right now, I don't really have high expectations for Carson. I think the way to win isn't by having him drop back 45 times and throwing the ball the way they did the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. They got to stick with Brian Robinson. I don't know if Antonio Gibson's going to play, but they got to run the ball and play sound defense. I don't think Wentz nor Heineke is the reason this team wins Sunday, the following week, or any further than that.
Right, and then you briefly already talked about, but coach's decision to go with Wentz. Kind of talk about it if you can. What your personal opinion on the move? Because I was listening to late night radio. I worked overnight last night. I was listening to national radio, and there was a former Seahawks GM who actually, like, the host presented the question to the GM and saying like how dumb of a move this was, and the former GM actually said, no, I think it's a good move. I actually agree with it just based on the spark aspect of it. So what is your opinion on it?
It's tough because you're this late in the season. You don't want to change, or you want to change as little as possible. I mean, you know who you are at this point. You know what's ahead of you. You control your own destiny. You need to win 2 games against a Browns team that's largely been disappointing for much of the year, and then a Cowboys team that, for all we know, could be resting their starters if they're locked into that 5 seed. So there's 2 very winnable games ahead. I think ultimately Ron Rivera wanted to make this move for a while, but the reason he didn't do it back when Wentz was first healthy again is because Heineke had earned the job at that point. He was playing well. His numbers weren't anything crazy, but they were winning, not in spite of him, but with him. And at that point, when you're rolling, it's kind of like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. They haven't won in a month. The energy is a lot lower than it has been after that Falcons game. And I think at this point, they're, like I said, that spark, that's what they're hoping for. And they don't think they can get it with Heineke. They know what they're going to get from Heineke. They're comfortable if they have to turn back to him by injury or any other reason that he's capable of running the offense. And I think maybe they're just looking for someone who they feel can go from 20 points a game to 24 to 27, where I feel like they think they're going to need to be in that range in order to win a couple more games down the stretch.
Yeah, no, totally agree. It's always it's funny listening to like the national talk radio guys or like the speak for yourselves or like the talking heads on TV that kind of already have their bias against Wentz, and so everyone's just like, "Oh, this is a horrible move." So we'll see
Yeah.
how it goes. But flipping to the other side of the ball, it seems like obviously this defense during the winning streak was kind of the catalyst behind the running game as well for this team's winning streak in the past couple weeks. Obviously, against the Giants, they gave up like a 98-yard drive to Daniel Jones. They gave up a 99-yard to Brock Purdy and the 49ers this past week. Do you think that the defense gets a turned around against a Browns offense that seems like it's been struggling over the past couple of weeks since Deshaun Watson returned?
You would hope so. I think the opportunity in the matchup couldn't be better. Like you said, Deshaun Watson hasn't looked great since he's been back. We all know what he's capable of doing, but when you don't play football for a year and a half, almost 2 years, it's going to take a few weeks to knock that rust off. And in years past, I would say the Commanders, Washington is the perfect landing spot for someone who's struggling to turn their year around. And we've seen so many people do that dating back to when Matthew Stafford got his first career win against Washington. So it's just like you want to think this is the perfect opportunity for this defense to turn things around. It's a lighter schedule, but I don't know. I mean, they're dealing with a bunch of injuries on the back end. Cam Curl has been limited. He was out last week with the ankle. That's a huge loss if he can't go. Derek Forrest missed Thursday's practice with illness. There's something going around where Chase Young missed it the day before. Another player missed it on the offensive side of the ball today. So you're hoping he'll be back for Sunday. And then Benjamin St-Juste quietly was a DNP today with that ankle injury that kept him out for a month. So it's tough to say, oh, this is a game this defense is going to kind of return to form when they had that resurgence midseason, when we don't know if their key guys are going to be playing, one, and two, you never know with like a quarterback as talented as Deshaun, even with him not playing so long. And one more thing I want to add quickly, Watson has historically been terrible when it's cold out. So you would think, oh, it's going to be great, but it's supposed to be in like the 50s or 60s on Sundays. So not the best break for Washington there.
Yeah, kind of the piggyback off that. I think I saw a stat. I mean, I saw it floating around Twitter, so it could be true or it could not be true. But I think the stat was without Cam Curl in the lineup, the defense is giving up like 90 something points without him in the lineup. With him in the lineup, they're giving up like 19 or 20 points a game or something like that. So my question is, do you think Cam Curl is going to go on Sunday? And why does he make such a difference on this defense? Like, because I mean, most people think, oh, he's a safety, like he shouldn't make that big of a difference. But why is he such an impact player for this defense?
Yeah. First, I do think he's going to go. Earlier this week, Ron Rivera said he seems like he's a lot closer to going this week than he was last week. And last week, it came down to a pregame workout where he just feel like he couldn't go. I think in a situation that's pretty much a must win, he's going to give it everything he can to play. And when he is out there, he's such a difference maker because he does so many different things well. At one point this year, he was calling defensive plays. He had the green dot on. He can play all three or both safety positions plus the nickel. He could cover. He was a former corner at Arkansas before he switched to safety. He's literally the definition of the cliche, a jack of all trades, a do it all guy. And a positional versatility is something we've seen this whole coaching staff like preach ever since they got here. A bunch of their players on the back end, Derek Forrest, Bobby McCain, Kendall Fuller, and more, can play a bunch of different positions. But Curl is by far the best of that bunch. He's great stopping both tight ends and in the run game. We saw George Kittle kind of go free last week with Cam Curl not out there. And while this team did a good job pretty much slowing McCaffrey, it was the passing and the tight ends that really hurt that defense. So I'm really expecting him to be back. I mean, if he doesn't play David Njoku, I'm really worried about him and that running attack. I mean, with Nick Chubb, he's as good as there is in this league. So I think he'll do whatever he can to play. And if not, it could be trouble for that back end.
Yeah, and then Ethan, in Washington's win streak during that time, they were going against defenses that were bad against the run, and that kind of made things easier on the quarterback. Going against the Browns, they are 25th in rushing yards on defense. However, they are 8th in passing yards, and Carson Wentz obviously brings his arm strength. So do you think that the offensive strategy and the key for this game is going to be to run the ball a heck of a whole lot, because a guy like Myles Garrett, who has 13 and a half sacks so far this season, could possibly be hurting you on passing downs?
It needs to be a run first offense. And just because they're switching that quarterback, it doesn't mean they need to completely change their identity. In four of Carson Wentz's first 5 starts, I'm pretty sure he topped 40 passing attempts. In all of Heineke's starts, there's only been one game where he did that, and it was that Giants game in overtime where it was basically an extra quarter. So I'm not worried that I think Scott Turner will go back to this pass happy sort of offense with Carson Wentz under center, but I think it would be a mistake if he did. I know Antonio Gibson's dealing with both a knee and a foot injury. We don't know if he's going to play. Brian Robinson straight up said he felt beat up after that San Francisco game. So they need to rely on these guys. And if Gibson can't go, expect a lot more Jonathan Williams. The coaching staff really likes him. I would expect him to get a lot of work. When they run the ball well, control time of possession, and play good defense, which is what we've seen dating back to 2021, they win games. And that's been the recipe to win this year too, regardless of who's been under center. And it would be honestly quite foolish to think they're going to go out and beat a Browns team that's not great against the run, but has an elite pass rush duo and has good secondary players if they think they're going to beat them by throwing it 40 to 50 times a game. It won't work that way.
Yeah, they need to hog the ball, run the ball, and just liquidate the clock, keep that offense.
I see what you did there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back to the Saints game last week, I mean, they basically beat the Browns with Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill the whole game. So
Yeah,
I feel like obviously Washington has slightly better weapons than, well, not even slightly. They have better weapons than New Orleans. So especially in the run game. So hopefully they can take advantage of that. But speaking of the run game and this offensive line, it seems that Kayvon Thibodeau over those 2 Giants games and Nick Bosa against the 49ers have just been wreaking havoc up front. This offensive line has become it was a strong point last year. It's kind of been makeshift this year, kind of iffy this year. Do you think they're going to be able to stop Myles Garrett? And if so, what do they need to do to kind of slow him down?
Yeah. No, I don't think they're gonna stop him. The last like you mentioned, Kayvon Thibodeau, Nick Bosa, they both won NFC Defensive Player of the Week after facing this Commanders offensive line. It's not great. And Myles Garrett is arguably better than both. I mean, it's definitely better than Kayvon Thibodeau at this point. Nick Bosa's as good as they come, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have to use their tight ends a lot to chip. It's honestly unfair to ask Charles Leno to try and block any of these guys one-on-one. We've seen him hold his own against some guys, and we've also seen him get straight up beat, and that's what's happened the past few weeks. He doesn't seem – I mean, he's a good player. He's been dealing with a bunch of injuries too on the side, but there's no excuse for having your left tackle go one-on-one in clear passing situations against these elite talents. And Myles Garrett scares me. That whole defensive front scares me. That's why I say you got to really establish the run and kind of keep him and that defense thinking, because if you get in 3rd and long situations where Garrett and the rest of these guys can pin their ears back, it could be a long day for Carson Wentz, who already got sacked 9 times in one game earlier this year.
Yeah, we saw that, but obviously he got the ball out of his hands very quickly against San Francisco, who were blitzing him a heck of a whole lot, which was weird because you would expect them to be in prevent. But Ethan, to finish this up, I only have a couple more questions for you. Talking about for this Commanders defense, looking at the Browns offense, because this is kind of a very weird situation. They are 5th in rushing, 22nd in passing yards. But the fact is, the past couple weeks, Washington has been diced up a little bit and sitting in their zone, and they have the capable receivers in Donovan Peoples-Jones, and then obviously Amari Cooper and David Njoku. So what are the keys for Washington facing this Cleveland offense? Because they are dangerous to an extent.
I think, as weird as it sounds, because I would never have said this 2 years ago, you have to try and let Deshaun Watson beat you. I mean, we can't have Nick Chubb run for 150, 200 yards and let that be the way Cleveland gets points on the board. I mean, Chubb hasn't been great the past month or so, and that's because defenses have focused on him. And while Watson's still in this rusty phase, you got to take advantage of that, because who knows how much longer he'll kind of be off a little bit. I don't think he'll be back to that guy we saw a few years ago until next year at the earliest. So stopping the run is by far the biggest key. Nick Chubb, making them beat you. I would like to see them play a little bit more man than they have recently. Like you mentioned, they've been playing a lot more zone the past month than they had all year. I think a lot of that has to do with Benjamin St-Juste being out, and that's a key guy who was, like I said earlier, was a DNP today. And if he can't go, I expect them to probably stay in zone just because they don't have confidence in one guy shutting down Amari Cooper or something like that. But hopefully he's able to go, and that way you can have him kind of play man, run a little bit more man, and kind of just trust these guys defensively. I feel like in the past, ever since Jack Del Rio's been here, the defense has been its best when he simplified his system, kind of just let his players play instinctually and with their talents. And there's a lot of guys on this defense that play at their best when they're kind of just flying around, going based off what they see and what they hear. And when you kind of get this complex system in their heads, sometimes it causes miscommunications and breakdowns on the back end. So stopping the run and kind of just letting this defense play freely. It'd be great if Washington could jump out to an early lead where you get rid of those early run situations with Cleveland. But we know this team's, it's hard for them to get a lead early and hold on to it. So it's questionable to see.
So my piggyback question off of that is going to be in a very simplified format, but you explained it so perfectly well. So what's more important, stopping the run or sacking Watson?
I think stopping the run.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be.
I agree with you. And then my next question, the alumni, the Hogs are returning obviously this weekend, so should be a crazy scenario. I think they're giving out pig snouts before the games to all the fans. I think when they're leaving, do they get a keychain or something? Am I mistaken about that?
There's a double giveaway. I actually don't have the terms in front of me, and honestly, I haven't really read too much about it, but I know they get something on the way out as well as kind of a way to incentivize them to stay the whole game. So, I mean, hopefully the game's either close where fans would anyway, or Washington wins. So
yeah,
I don't know. I think the giveaway's cool. I wish they did it a little bit earlier in the year. They're doing they're doing the Sonny Jurgensen thing next week and this Hogs giveaway this week. You'd like to see those done when it's a little bit warmer, maybe. But I mean, kudos to them for having a theme game for pretty much every year or every contest this season.
Yeah, and I'm sure scheduling has a lot to do with that. Next question for you, real quick, briefly, try to do it as fast as you possibly can. Season MVP and most improved player so far.
Season MVP, can I go one offense, one defense?
Yeah.
All right, Terry McLaurin on offense, slow start, but he's obviously been that guy, that legit number one guy. He's on pace to break all of his single season records. I think he's only like 40 or 50 yards short of his career high in receiving yards. And then defensively, it's got to be Daron Payne. I mean, it's just a flat out shame this guy wasn't selected to the Pro Bowl. He's going to make a boatload of money this offseason. He's one of the best interior defensive tackles in this game. And he has like 8.5 sacks, I believe. He's close to double digits. It's just insane how good he's been this year in a contract year. And as long as the Commanders don't have a franchise quarterback locked up, they got to find a way to keep him.
Yeah, and then my last question for you, very briefly, do you think that this is the biggest game of Carson Wentz's career, given the fact that if he doesn't win this game, then Sam Howell most likely is starting next week, so this coaching staff kind of look on him in the offseason, so Carson Wentz's future kind of hangs in the balance, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, yes and no. I would say he's played in bigger games in terms of the specific stakes, like with the Eagles. I'm sure he was in multiple playoff runs, even besides the year he tore his ACL, where all those games are just like by the nature of them bigger games. But in terms of the direction of his career, 100%. Like you said, if he doesn't play well this week and they go to Sam Howell next week, if they're eliminated, I don't think any team this offseason is going out and signing Carson Wentz to be their clear-cut guy. This was his third chance. We said this back when Washington traded for him in March. This is his last chance to prove he's an elite franchise guy, or at least a number one guy. Yeah. I think if he leaves, or if Washington and him go different directions after this year, say it's a bad performance on Sunday, and so be it. I don't think any team in this league is bringing him in to be a clear-cut one. It's going to be like the Andy Dalton sort of situation where you might want to bring him in with a rookie or bring him in with another vet, something where along those lines. I don't think any team, especially a fourth team, is going to go out and put all their chips in Carson Wentz the way Washington did this year, Indy did last year and the Eagles did in 2017 when they traded up to get him. So it's a huge game for the outlook of the next 5 or 10 years of his career, honestly.
Absolutely. That was more like a selfish question, like more just pertaining to Carson Wentz. But I understood like the team aspect, because you are right about that. Obviously, there's bigger stakes out there with playoffs and stuff. It's just for like his career, absolutely. A lot of stress has to be involved with it. Ethan, I can't thank you enough for joining us. I was on this very warm night, being able to bless us with your presence and your good intellect. Before we get out of here, we'd just like to plug your social media handle, just in case anybody watching hasn't followed you yet and would like to.
Appreciate it. Always fun joining you guys. My Twitter is at Ethan_Cadeaux. That's CADEAUX. And same with me on Instagram. I haven't joined the other platforms yet, so hopefully soon.
Slow and steady wins the race. Isn't that right, Ethan?
Yes, sir.
All right, brother. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the game. Thank you, brother.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Ethan Cadeaux. I like talking to him, dude. He knows his stuff.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't had him on like before. Like he's been on the beat for a little bit now, so got him on 2 times in the past like month or 2. So yeah.
Hey, it's been a weird year. I will say that. Reed should be joining us here shortly.
I feel like this year has just been like the whole season in itself just kind of zoomed by. Like I just kind of looked up and I was like, oh, it's already week 17.
That's what I've been trying to tell you guys. Enjoy the ride. Stop flipping out about quarterbacks and playoffs. Can we just enjoy the season while it's happening? Because it's only here for a short amount of time, and then it's just speculation, and then it flies through. But that being said, this weekend's big for Washington on many levels, but obviously the alumni are returning. Mark Schlereth, Jacoby, and others are coming. The Hogs, Joe Gibbs, the Hogettes, I believe, are making an appearance as well. What was your reaction to that? Because apparently the new mascot, which is going to be called Tutty, which is a hog, is going to be released this weekend at the game. So what was your reaction to that? Are you flipping out about it like some people are?
Nah, I mean, you know me. I'm like you. I'm not worried about the mascot, man. Like, I'm glad that they're showing love to the Hogs, even though obviously they're like salty. I don't even want to get into that. But
dude, isn't it weird in that lawsuit they said you can't, like, you can use the term hogs, but you can't use a hog? Like,
right.
Like what does that mean?
That's what I'm saying. It's just like, dog, what is going on?
Are you saying that you invented hogs?
Right. I don't know what's going on here, man. Like I said, I mean,
do you watch The Office?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You were with Dwight. He's like, "Are you saying you invented paper?"
Yeah. Like I'm like you. Like I said, I don't really care about the mascot. I mean, I know a lot of people are like, "It looks childish." Oh, they're calling FedEx Field the pig pen now, and blah blah blah. And it's just like, who cares? Like, just win the game on Sunday, so we can keep advancing, win in advance. And keep on going down this line and hopefully get into the playoffs. Like, obviously, like, I mean, it's good for like the newer, like, up and coming Commanders fans that, like, the younger kids that are like, oh, cool, a pig, like a cartoon pig or like a mascot. But again, like me, I'm just worried about, for the most part, what they do on the field and what they do against the Browns on Sunday and against Dallas in Week 18, and hopefully in the playoffs. So, I mean, I'm glad for the Hogs that they're getting that recognition. Like I said, they're bringing my guy Stink back and Joe Jacoby and Coach Gibbs, and they're honoring those guys. But for the mascot, I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah, like, you know my feelings are, but I will say this: I will be highly disappointed if that hog isn't parachuting into the stadium when they announce it. Like, don't have him run out of tunnel. Like, do something badass with the military. Have some paratroopers drop in with him with his helmet on, coming down like, "What's up, everybody?" That would be dope.
Just run in with the smoke and like a flag. Like,
man, I hope not. I want it to be dope, dude. I want it to be like, what? That's awesome. Our freaking mascot showed up by
I'm sure even
That's
if he
awesome.
did something cool like that, like parachute in and stuff like that, like people would still complain, like, oh, what does a parachute have to do with a hog? Hogs can't fly.
Well, he's got a war helmet. He's a military helmet on. I mean, what are we doing here, guys?
You know how people are. People are already like, what does a hog have to do with a commander? They don't even make sense.
I'll never forget on Twitter, one dude told me, he's like, what do the Commanders even have to do with DC anyway? I was like, dude, are you serious? Like, the commander-in-chief, right? Like, DC, right?
I told you, people just want to complain. We could win the Super Bowl 48-10, and people would be like, oh, you let them score 10 points.
Absolutely crazy. But real quick, before we get into our fan questions and everything, kind of want to talk to you about this injury report, kind of craziness going on with these illnesses. Obviously, and then Chase Young's return. Obviously, he's done really well. But Cam Curl, I think, in my personal opinion, we heard what Ethan said. I think that Cam Curl is going to play in this game. I feel like what you saw last week with Cam being out. I know I've talked about it so many freaking times already. I don't need to repeat it again. But what they showed last week is that Cam Curl is very important to this team, and with the playoffs on the line, I think Cam Curl would play hurt. To be perfectly honest with you, I think Cam Curl is one of those dogs, and he would rather be out there helping his team than miss out on the playoffs.
No, 100%. I mean, like Ethan said, he was pretty much a game time decision last week. I think even Coach Rivera said that he was a game time. They thought he was going to play, but then it came down to it. He couldn't really push off and cut like they really wanted him to and like he wanted to. So you would assume with another week of health or another week of rest, he's been practicing throughout the week. So like you said, hopefully he's out there. He's an important piece. They're giving up a whole 10 or 11 extra points per game without him on the field this season. So he's definitely the wheel that makes the car run or spin or whatever the saying is. I don't know. I probably just made that up, honestly. But
Hey, I like it actually. Let's bring that on from here on out. Now let's get into our fan questions, and this one's a great one from the Colonel. Hopefully, we'll be able to celebrate Christmas tomorrow with the Colonel, be able to meet Corey. But his question is, hopefully that happens, Colonel. Terry McLaurin was the go-to guy with Taylor Heineke at the helm. Can you comment on the chemistry between Terry and Carson?
yeah. In the beginning of the season, obviously you saw that he kind of had more of that chemistry with Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel had one of his best games week one against the Jaguars with Carson Wentz under center.
Yeah, we were in the stadium for that game. Well, Curtis Samuel on that first drive, I'll never forget. Because like all last season, all we did was complain that they could not execute touchdowns on the first drive of the game.
Yeah.
First game of the season, they go down the field, score a touchdown, and Curtis Samuel was used all over.
To your point, what did I say? I was like, he's going to be the one that scores the first touchdown because everyone dogged him throughout the whole offseason. But
I did say that.
I mean, Holstradamus, what can I say?
Yeah, that's true.
No, but also, just side note, where has that Scott Turner been since week one? I don't know. But either way, what was the question? I don't even know. We got so sidetracked.
Can you comment
Carson,
the chemistry between Terry and
chemistry.
Carson?
Yeah, so he had that chemistry with Jahan Dotson because they got that work where Terry was going through his whole contract thing. I think that it had a little bit to do with Carson Wentz not really having the system like down pat like he should. Like obviously Terry's the number one. They're going to shade the defense to him. They're going to roll the safeties over. They're going to bracket him and whatnot. So I just feel like Carson Wentz didn't have that trust in himself to kind of wait for Terry to break open into a window, or he didn't have that feel of how Terry runs his routes yet. So, I mean, obviously he's been out with the broken finger. So, and even during practice, you don't really get a lot of the reps like you should during training camp, OTAs and whatnot. So hopefully he's been on the sidelines kind of like taking notes on the chemistry between him and Taylor, because obviously that's Taylor's go-to guy. And hopefully he's been taking notes on the whole offense as a whole, but hopefully he's been taking notes on the chemistry between Taylor. He's been picking Taylor's brain as far as like, and Terry's brain as far as like how he likes to run this type of route, how they see the defenses and how they see the game together. So hopefully they're in there crunching film and kind of breaking down tape together as well to get on the same page, because I mean, obviously this team goes as the running game goes, but I would dare to say that this team goes as Terry McLaurin goes. Whenever Terry McLaurin has the ball in his hands, the crowd gets hyped, the offense gets energized. Good things happen when Terry got the ball in his hands. So hopefully Carson can get the ball to him as many times as possible.
Yeah, with Terry, it's almost like a trust factor with Carson. I think early on he didn't really trust Terry with some of the throws that he could make. And I think over the time with Taylor starting, you could see the kind of fly balls that were going on, and Terry and these guys are still coming down with it. And as Carson's standpoint, you have to be licking your chops, saying, are you kidding me? All I had to do was just chuck that thing as far as I could, and they would come down with it. And that's why I think in this game, with Cleveland being 25th in rushing yards, being 8th in passing yards, I think what's going to happen a lot in this game is you're going to see a heck of a whole lot of rushing attempts, but you're going to see a heck of a whole lot of passing yards, but not a lot of passing attempts. They're going to ground and pound, and then they're going to stretch north and south off of play action off of that. I think Scott Turner in his press conference today had a great comment about saying they can't like go away from their identity, but basically they need to still be able to stretch the field and using that off of that because it helps with pass protection. Because with those deep play actions, you need as much time as possible, and sometimes having a good running game with that play action will force the defenders to slow down just a little bit. And in the football, it's a game of inches, and that's the difference between that ball being picked off and tipped and being a completion or a touchdown. And so with their, I'm not even answering your question, Colonel. I'm just rambling about the game at this point. But that being said, I think I don't really care about that, to be honest, like with the chemistry, because I feel like it's going to be dispersed. I feel like they've realized over the past couple of games to disperse it to everybody. They've had targets left and right to every receiver, and they've been productive. I just feel like whoever's going to be downfield is going to get the ball, and it doesn't matter if it's Terry, Curtis, or Jahan, because they've all shown the ability to be deep downfield and come up with some insane catches.
To your point, going back to that week 1 game, I mean, look what Jahan Dotson did. Look what Terry did. Look what Curtis did. I mean, he was clearly spreading the ball out to all the weapons. Obviously, Logan Thomas. Did Logan Thomas play that game? No, that was Rodgers that played that game, who also got activated this week as well. So, yeah, I mean, we've seen Carson be able to do it, to be able to spread the ball out to these guys, get the ball in the playmakers' hands, including Terry. So, just go back to just make it easy. Go back to the layups. Go back to the easy throws. Just don't overprocess and overthink things. Just do it like I said. Do what Taylor does. Just be the point guard of the offense. Just get the ball in the playmakers. I know. It's clear.
You're going to say that?
I don't want to stir up any controversy. I'm just saying. But just be the point guard of the offense. Just distribute the ball to the playmakers' hands and let them do the rest.
All right, I agree with you. Now, this next question from Twitter is Jeff Pastor. Thank you, Jeff. Really appreciate it. How do you feel about the game on Sunday? He says, I'm 50-50 on it. Defense will shine, but, man, we have problems in the red zone.
Yeah, I'm probably about 55-45. I'm close to 50-50 as well. It really just comes down to Carson Wentz. Like, obviously, I've been on Twitter like all week, just going back and forth with people. But that's more of like, just I'll be at work, just bored, to be honest with you. But I do think that Carson Wentz can have success in this offense if they stick to what they've been doing over the past, since Carson Wentz went down. Actually, honestly, and Taylor Heineke took over. Taylor Wentz. I mean, I wish I could be Taylor Wentz, be like a franchise quarterback right there. But Sam Howell. Yeah, but I think that it really just comes down to, is Scott Turner going to stick to what got us in this position, which is Brian Robinson in the run game, and like you said, kind of mixing that downfield, that north and south stretch the field play action game with the playmakers on the outside. So I think that the defense will show up, and I think that I think the offense will take a little bit of time to get in sync with Carson Wentz in there, but hopefully once they get rolling, it's like a downhill effect where once they start, they just keep on pouring it on.
Man, I had so much prep, and the one stat I forgot is a third down conversion percentage on defense for either team. But on offense, Cleveland is 20th right now. And that being said, I feel a lot better with that because our defense is top 10 in that category. And so that's a situation where I feel good about it, but it comes down to eliminating the run, Jeff. But I actually, you know what, Jeff, look at me. I'm at 100. I'm at 100. And I don't know why. But I guess the only reason I'm at 100 is because sometimes when your back is against the wall and all you can do is punch, good things happen. It creates this kind of energy, you could say. And that's why I felt like the Carson Wentz move was made, because you have all this game film of 15, 16 games for these teams to come in and look at you. Well, now you could flip the script by doing something different now. And, like, I'm not saying different, like, meaning, like, in schematic wise by not running the football a lot, but what I mean is by different plays and screwing with their head a little bit, creating just a little bit of doubt that maybe we're not seeing what we're seeing here. And that's what you can do heading into, if you do make it into the playoffs. So that's why I agree with the move. It's something that kind of screw with people, and you can, I don't know what the term is, not like a firework, but just a very like quick setting fire, I guess you could say, is what you can do with it. So I have a weird feeling about this game, because at least you know that they've been fighting throughout all these games, and they're going to go out fighting. And so I agree with them. I know where they are, and it's just shitty to know that they had 2 games up on this, and it was squandered away, especially at home. but we're not going to cry over spilled milk, right?
Yeah,
So
and
no reason.
to the red zone point, like obviously, like moving the ball between the 20s has not really been a problem for this offense for the most part. When they're converting the third downs, when they're getting themselves in second and manageable, third and manageable, staying ahead of the chains and whatnot. But I just feel like once they get inside the red zone, like we've seen Scott Turner kind of get reluctant to kind of throw the ball in the end zone and throw the ball in the red zone because I think that he doesn't want Taylor to turn the ball over. He gets scared that because everything gets condensed in the red zone, Taylor doesn't really have the arm strength to get it into those tight windows. Like I said, I've said this before, he's more of an anticipation thrower. So unless Scott's really scheming something up or the receivers really went to the line of scrimmage to get open, he can throw it to a spot and let the guys do their thing. So I think that Carson Wentz hopefully does help in the red zone with as far as Scott Turner kind of balancing out the calls in the red zone and kind of expanding the red zone plays as far as like what he can call in the red zone, what he can do in the red zone. And I do think that obviously Carson Wentz has a bigger, stronger arm. And if it needs to be a tight window throw, like a back pylon throw or something like that, Carson Wentz can kind of get that in there and zip with a little bit of zip to kind of get it past the safety or the linebacker.
Yeah, and especially in the red zone, that's huge. That's exactly what you're talking about. I think that one play from Trevor Lawrence to Zay Jones 2 weeks ago is a perfect indicator of that, where it's like two defenders are right there, but he just flicks his wrist, and that thing flies through there. And it like a normal quarterback would be worried about throwing that ball because maybe the defender could jump it. But because the way he threw it, he was confident about it, and that can kind of help with Carson. Because in Sam Fortier, the Washington Post even talked about the low red zone area. Taylor's one of the worst quarterback ratings in the NFL so far, and that's the one area that you with Carson you feel a lot better with, because one thing you could say about Carson is he does execute in the red zone unless it's against the Titans late in the game. Then he doesn't.
Yeah.
Right. Now this next question is from Hog on the Mountain. Does the new owner rodeo we're going through ultimately make us more or less attractive to free agents?
I guess for like the big name guys, like like the superstar players, the superstar players don't really ever hit free agency, but I guess for the bigger name guys that like have that clean image in the NFL, like a Russell Wilson, like obviously the whole thing was, I felt like he didn't want to come here because of like he didn't want to not really tarnish his image, but it would look bad on his image with everything going on, like the whole off the field stuff.
He just wanted to say Bronco country, let's ride.
Yeah, I mean, Commanders country, let's ride doesn't really sound that cool anyway. So
dude, that was probably the deciding factor. He was like, which one sounds cool?
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't put it past Russell Wilson.
Dude, that video of him running out of the practice facility, practicing how to hit people's hands running out of the tunnel was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. Craziest thing.
Russell Wilson is a
I can't imagine what he does in the mirror. Do you think he snaps it from the mirror, stick my butt out a little bit more? Like,
no, he uses Sierra for that.
You forgot what
question again.
Basically, there's a new owner of rodeo.
Oh yeah,
screwed things up with
I mean, I would say it's like a 50-50 thing. I feel like some guys that are, like I said, they have that kind of clean like image and that kind of like spotless image of in the eye of the media and the public. I think they would stay away just because like they would be like I said, like a Russell Wilson, like, oh, he's been such a nice guy and such a good guy. Like, why is he going to the scumbag Daniel Snyder and play for him and stuff like that. So, but as far as like the middle tier guys and whatnot, I don't think they really think about that. They're there to do a job and get a paycheck and play the game that they love. So they're just worried about like the on the field stuff and stuff like that. So I just think that like you sign a free agent like a linebacker or like a cornerback, you're not going to ask them in a press conference, their opening press conference or something like that. Like, why did you pick this team with all the stuff swirling around Dan Snyder? But a quarterback who's like the face of a franchise or the guy that gets all the credit or all the blame or all the media questions, I can see that coming up. So I think that for some guys it might affect them, but for most, nah, probably not.
I don't think it affects it at all, unless it be a positive aspect where, like, if Jay-Z was involved, somebody would be like, dude, I want to go play for Jay-Z. That'd be a dream come true. I grew up listening to his music. Sure. That's something I could see influencing. But the actual selling of the franchise, I don't think it has anything to do with it. I think the winning and the talent has more so to do with it than anything. I think Albert Breer tweeted it last week, how the weapons on this offense kind of make it a destination for a veteran quarterback looking for a place to go to maybe capitalize on his last-minute Super Bowl for retiring. And I think that has nothing to do with the owner. I think that Albert Breer's smart, and he knows that this is a good football team, and somebody could be eyeing it in that breath. So with that question, I don't think it's a negative at all. But this
also, like, on the side note of that, and on the flip side, like, I literally forgot what I was going to say. Whatever.
It's okay. This question is from Tim Towner in the Discord chat server. Every media market has one correspondent who is totally disrespected. People just can't stand them or their opinions. So negative, so fan unfriendly. Who is that for the Commanders?
We're both going to say they're probably right. They're both the same person. Obviously, it's going to probably, you're going to say JP. Like, I feel like.
Well,
like
but his question is basically like, who's somebody that doesn't deserve to get the backlash that they get every time they say something about the team?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. JP, like obviously, like, I know JP, he, like, people are like, oh, he's a douchebag, and the way he puts things out there and says things, and he's like a frat dude. And but at the end of the day, like, I feel like Twitter is for engagement. So when he puts stuff on Twitter, he's trying to get engagement from the fan base. Does he egg stuff on? Like, yes, at times, but he's also, you got to remember, he's also a fan like us. So, like, I feel like part of him is like, I got to do my job, but also part of him is like, he's just frustrated because he's a fan like us, and sometimes the fanatic in him as a fan kind of like maybe takes over. So, like, I know, like I said, everyone goes on JP. I don't really, like, he doesn't sway me either way. Like, he is what he is. So I would just say Mr. Finlay.
I don't think he would be categorized in there. I think it's deserved in most, because, like, I understand how people's speech, how they talk, and how the way that they say things, and I see how he says things, so I know how I feel about it. So I know that basically a lot of time he's blowing smoke up people's rear ends. But that being said, who's the media correspondent that gets the crapped on the most, that probably says the right stuff? Sam Fortier? I don't know. I don't know who
I don't really think he gets crapped on, though. Like,
no, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't have anybody.
The only media person that really gets like media, you say the junkies are media, they get shitted on 24/7. But the only, like, real, like,
they kind of
media
deserve
person,
it. They requested for Rivera to resign.
Of course. I'm just saying.
To step
that's
down.
why I didn't lump them in, because I don't even, like, lump them as media. They're just shock talkers, shock factor talkers. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, but that's what I'm saying. Like, no real, like, beat reporter, or, like, actually, you know what? People hate on Grant Paulson. Grant Paulson's my guy. So
there we go. Okay, you know what? That's a great one. That's a great one, because people do flip on Grant, and they do say that Grant's racist and stuff. Which, all right, I'm glad that you said that.
Grant is, like, I feel like when I listen to Grant on the radio, we had him on a couple times. Like, he just gets it. Everything he says, I'm like, it's like we're like long lost brothers. He's like my vanilla twin or something. Like, it's crazy, man. Like, so I'm gonna say Grant Paulson.
Is this your confession to Grant Paulson on air?
It is. I hope if you ever hear this and listen, Grant, hit me up. You're my vanilla.
He might think twice now after your attitude in this. Like, man,
I like Grant, and I feel like Grant doesn't get the credit he deserves, and he gets a lot of backlash that he doesn't deserve.
That's a really good one. Now, this next one from Tim Towner. Will the Commanders' offense get a one-game bump versus Cleveland and score 4+ touchdowns?
I mean, that would be nice. They haven't scored 4 touchdowns since week 1 when, what do you know, Carson Wentz was the quarterback. But 4 touchdowns, that's tough. I can see them getting 3. I don't know. 4 is kind of a tall task for a guy coming in this late in the season, trying to get reacclimated back to the offense and his teammates and whatnot, and especially with the way the offensive line was playing against premier pass rushers. So I'll go 3, but if they get 4, obviously I'm not gonna be mad. I'll be pretty sized, but I'll go 3.
Yeah, that would be they're 20th right now in the NFL in red zone conversion rate with a 52% clip, and then defensively for Cleveland they're 14th. And so they're pretty good in the red zone. They're about a 50-50 shot once you get up there. And so with Washington, they have to be able to execute in that breath. And like we talked about, Carson is good in the red zone. But it's going to come down to, can they score long points, I think. And in the run game and in the pass game, I think that's going to be evident. But I think in the run game, it's very possible that they get a touchdown or 2. But it's the passing touchdowns. Like, can they get a big 50-yarder, 40-yarder, and make it a crazy game. And those are the 2 extra touchdowns that I would put in there. So I do think it's possible that they can do it, without a doubt that they could have 4. Now, this next question that we have, that was the already hit. This is Brandon Reinbold, my man, Meese21. Who worries you the most going against the Browns? Carson Wentz or Scott Turner and his play calling, and who is more crucial to have a better game in that order to win?
Who scares me the most? I would say Scott Turner, because I don't want him to go back to the week 1 through 5 game plan, which was, especially now with the offensive line getting beat up and getting beat the way they are. I don't want to see those 5 to 7 drop backs, 5 to 7 step drop backs. I don't want to see the slow developing plays. I don't want to see the play action, drop back 5 to 7 yards, wait for a guy to run a 25-yard post down the field. I want to see what Carson did when he came in against San Francisco, which was get the ball out quick, identify the blitzer, identify the hot routes, and just make his read, get it out. Make his read, get it out. And like I said, kind of play that point guard position on the field where just get it out quick and let the playmakers do the rest. So, yeah, I'm kind of scared. I'm more scared of Scott Turner not calling a Carson Wentz friendly game plan as opposed to Carson Wentz going out there and, you could say, doing Carson Wentz things. But
not really sure what that entails. I'm not sure what that entails. But no, that's a good one. Just go in. For me, honestly, I'm gonna cheat on this one, Brandon. I'm not gonna say either one of them concerns me the most. What concerns me the most is the offensive line and being able to generate the push against one of the lower the end pack rushing defenses in this league, being able to run the ball fundamentally consistently and forcing it down their throat like Reed's doing right now, and that can kind of help you with converting these third downs, getting into the.
Wouldn't that fall on Scott Turner though, because he's the one calling the plays?
Well, no, yeah, but the thing is, ultimately, if you run the ball on first and second down, if they can only push it for 1 yard, now you're screwed.
Yeah. I get
you know what I mean? So, it has to come down to the offensive line and that
has to be effective. It has to
be
effective.
Effective, right. And so that's my biggest concern. I have all the respect and confidence in Wes Schweitzer. Obviously, he just came off of being injured, so he's kind of getting back into shape. So hopefully they're able to just transition into this and do well after facing a very vaunted and good defensive front with the San Francisco 49ers going against the Browns. Now maybe they have that kind of chip on their shoulder to say, this is what we went against last week, but bam! And taking advantage of that opportunity. So sorry, Brandon.
Yeah, someone made a good point, actually. They were saying that about Wes Schweitzer and the center position, where they were saying that if you went back and looked at a lot of his snaps, they're not consistently going to the quarterback. You got to reach left, reach high, go right, go low with it. And they were saying that Taylor Heineke kind of adjusted to that because he's shorter, that he was able to get closer in the shotgun, and it made it a little bit easier for Schweitzer. So obviously with a bigger, kind of taller guy, and Carson Wentz is going to be a little bit farther back in the shotgun position than Taylor was as close. So that'll be something to look for, because obviously we saw that when Carson doesn't get a direct snap and get into rhythm, it's going to throw his timing off, and that's the next thing you know, he's taking 3, 4, 5, 6 sacks a game. So hopefully, like you said, Schweitzer can get in, have a confident, quick, and snap to Carson Wentz. We can get the clock rolling, get the ball rolling.
I love how you said confident, because obviously I played center. I played center many, many times, snapping the ball, and it's one of the most kind of stressful things, especially in big situations. But if you have the confidence and the kind of repetition of doing it, you know exactly how to flip that thing back. It's not hard, but in those situations, that mental kind of doubt wears into your head, and I feel that's where a lot of those snap issues come into it. So I loved how you brought in the confident snap with that, because you're absolutely right. I wholeheartedly agree with you. But who is more crucial to have a better game in order to get the win? I think it's Carson. Without a doubt, because one of the things being that the Browns have 8.5 of their 30 sacks are from linebackers and DBs. So similar to San Francisco, you're going to see a lot of different fronts. They're going to be pressuring a lot, sending different blitzes from everywhere. Carson has to be ready for it and expecting it, because the MO is out. He can't move. And this offensive line right now are 24th in the league in sacks. So they're going to be sending the heat after Carson and say, you got to move your feet or get the ball out of your hands quick. So for me, dude, I think it comes down to play calling and the offensive line. But, it is what it is. But in order, I would say Carson number 1, then Scott Turner. I think this is a big game for Carson Wentz. He's got to be able to execute for us to go farther. And I really hope it does, because if we're able to get into the playoffs and maybe win a playoff game, man, this is one heck of a story. And you might even need to write a book about it. Next question is from Big Tony Shivers Hall. If Antonio Gibson can't go, are you confident that Jonathan Williams can handle the remaining carries behind B-Rob?
I am definitely confident in Jonathan Williams. Every time that Jonathan Williams has gotten in the game for the past 2 seasons and got the ball in his hands, he's made good things happen with it. I feel like he has that kind of ability to kind of break it through the secondary and kind of break a tackle or two, and take it to the house from like 30, 40, 50 yards out, which you don't really see that with obviously I think Brian Robinson can do that, but I think he's still kind of adjusting to the NFL and like the vision and stuff like that, whatnot. So I think that if we're going to have a home run in the running game, like a hit a home run, I think Jonathan Williams is the guy that can hit that home run from anywhere on the field. And also the coaching staff has confidence in him as well. So that's definitely a huge thing as also.
Obviously, the passing downs is where it kind of really hurts you in a sense. But I do trust Jonathan Williams, very hard, aggressive, pounding the rock kind of runner. The other aspect is pass blocking. Antonio Gibson had gotten better at it. Obviously, he's not elite to an extent. Brian Robinson is he's very good at that. You feel confident about Brian Robinson pass blocking. But Jonathan Williams, that's the other element that he does bring, being able to execute in that sense. And that's what's probably most important to me, just because when you are in those situations, if you are forced into 3rd and long, you got to be able to get back there and help the guy out and stop a DB running full force. So without a doubt, I have confidence in Jonathan Williams, but I just don't. I think Jonathan is like the kind of pro you want, to be perfectly honest, where he kind of like molds what the offense is, where you have 2 power backs. You would feel a lot better if J.D. McKissick was back there, because you kind of could spell things out, but unfortunately he's injured. Hopefully he's doing okay. But yeah, I'm confident in Jonathan Williams. He's shown us time and time again he's very capable of coming in and being a force in the run game. Yeah, I remember 100%. An argument I got into in the preseason, because when they didn't sign Jarrett Patterson, I remember some dude coming after me saying that Jonathan Williams wouldn't rush for 100 yards. Jarrett Patterson's a better running back. Look, man, why do you guys have to do that? Like, why do you have to crap on somebody just to prove your point? You know what I mean? Like, just say your argument. Why do you have to crap on the other player, dude? It's your team. Weird. Now, this next question is from Scott Hartley in the UK. Oi!
Oi.
What trait, looks, or personality would you swap with your co-hosts? I'd take Reed's hairline.
Yeah, I was gonna say I need a new hairline.
You know what, you want mine?
Nah. Sure, we're in the same boat. What do you mean? We'd be like Mark Tyler's let's get Gerard Davis for Mayo and Bostic. So you want to swap a practice player for a practice player? Like, what do you practice squad player for practice squad player?
He called
hairline for hairline out here.
For that too. He was like, they bamboozled them.
Yeah.
What?
No, I'd probably say Kyle. I'd take Kyle's like talking abilities. Like you talk you enunciate everything. You talk clearly. Obviously, I mumble a lot. I like lose my train of thought like all the time. I like I tend to mumble and kind of like what's the dude from King of the Hills? I can't even like think.
Oh yeah, like, I don't even know his name.
Boomhauer.
Yeah, Boomhauer.
Yeah, I kind of get my Boomhauer.
I don't know, man.
So. You know what I'm saying, man?
Yeah.
But
it's unfortunate that Reed wasn't going to be here, because he probably would have had a great one for you, brother.
I can already say he's going to say something weird.
Yeah, very weird. Probably going to say something about Nick Bosa, to be perfectly honest. If we're being honest with ourselves, he was definitely going to bring up Nick Bosa with that question. Absolutely. Now, this next question is from Andy Lockhart in the UK. Oi! Appreciate you, Andy. Do you see Derek Carr signing here, even if he is released? As in, would he want to come here, Hall? I know this is your boy. You've been talking up my lookalike, Derek Carr. Make your jokes now all you want. I don't want the trench coat king coming here. All right, there's only one of us here. We don't need 2 of them. Leave him out there in Vegas. But that being said, what do you think?
Like my whole thing is like, I mean, obviously I've been championing Derek Carr because for the past years I just felt like he's the quarterback that was in our range of getting, as far as like not like a top tier elite guy, but like a fringe top 10 or top 12 to 13 type of guy, like a slightly above average guy that could come in and pretty much not elevate this team, but can win 10 plus games with this roster. As far as like, you can win with Derek Carr is my only point. But The only reason I even champion Derek Carr like that is because people are acting like this is like some rich history, quarterback history over the past couple of years. Like since Kirk Cousins has left, y'all realize the quarterbacks that we've had. So like when I say like, oh, Derek Carr, and people are like, oh, he's trash. And so what are the quarterbacks that we've been having here? Because like Derek Carr's better than all of them since Kirk Cousins left. So my point is, it's like whether it's Derek Carr or any veteran quarterback on the market. Obviously, like people think I just hate Sam Howell. I want Sam Howell to be good. I actually like Sam Howell 2 years before I even really knew about him. And then when he came out in the draft, I even liked him too. I was psyched when we drafted him.
I like the white Howell and I like the black Howell.
Exactly. So nah, I like Howell. Like I want him to develop and be the guy, but I'm just going off of like history. He's a 5th-round pick. I hope he develops and becomes a guy, but like I'm just like I said, I'm going off history and yeah. So when I champion like Derek Carr and like whatnot, it's not because I'm like he can be the savior for this team and he can take us to heights that we've never been to before. It's people are just so thirsty for a franchise quarterback that if the guy's not drafted and developed and become a superstar, then he's too good for this team. And my whole thing is, since Kirk Cousins left, we have been one of the most quarterback poverty-stricken teams in the NFL. So to poo-poo anyone that's been better than all the quarterbacks that have been on our roster since 2017, 18, whatever it is just crazy to me. So like that's why I'm like I said, people are like, oh, Tom Brady will be a free agent. Oh, he's too old. Aaron Rodgers will be a free agent. Oh, he sucks. Look at his year in Green Bay. Derek Carr might be a free agent. Oh, he sucks. Look at the year he had this year. It's like, do you ever want to have like an actual quarterback here? Froze.
No, your video did, but you're good. No,
yeah.
but
So I'm just like, do you ever want to have like an actual average NFL quarterback, or like, do we just want to always have a below average NFL quarterback that we have to win in spite of? That's my whole point.
Paul, I really appreciated that therapy session. I really did.
I had to get that out. Man,
I know you did, but
it's been stewing for a while.
Andy's question was, do you think that he would want to come here?
No. After all that, no. He'll have other options. He'll have better options. That's one of those things where like Derek Carr is like a faith-based guy. He's a real like morally thinking straight guy. So I feel like with all like, I mean, obviously, who knows what Dan Snyder the situation, but I just feel like
I'm surprised you said no, dude. Can I answer this?
Yeah,
Can I answer this for you?
My whole point
because
is
I don't even like Derek Carr, but I'm about to answer this for you, and you're gonna like it.
No. My whole one is I wish he would come here. He should come here because I think he can thrive here, but he'll have other options that will look more appealing on the outside.
Okay. I do think that Derek Carr would want to come here. One being that Jack Del Rio is the defensive coordinator. They could link back up. They won 12 games together back when they were.
I didn't think about that.
They were with the Raiders. And also the other side of it, obviously, I've been a big Derek Carr hater. I have been, but obviously he's a faith-based man.
That's because you look like him.
I know. I have a lot of respect for him. I want him to turn his career around just because of who he is as a person and everything. And I do think the argument that you guys brought up for Derek Carr and saying that the GM and the former coach literally destroyed that team and their draft picks and their draft classes, that kind of like the fact that they're still doing something says a lot. And I do agree with that. And I do. I think that if you have a good structured, built foundation, that Derek Carr could flourish in that sort of setting. So I do think that he'd come here, and I think the weapons around would be something that that Carr would want to come to, especially if Jack Del Rio's here and he feels comfortable and he feels like they're not going to throw him out every time he has a bad game or Josh Jacobs gets upset. So I think that he would, without a doubt. Now, to wrap this up, Hall, what are your 3 keys for offense and defense, and then score prediction?
3 keys for offense, it would be...
They're combined, so just only 3, not 3 for each.
Yeah, I got you. One would be, this is like no order of importance. One would be, it's a nice mug you got there too. That sounds fresh.
I just got it. My brother got it for me.
Nice.
How cool is that? Yeah.
Would be run the ball. Obviously, run the ball. Stick to what got us here is what I've been saying for the past like all week, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Stick to what got us here. Run the ball. Brian Robinson and great defense. Control the clock, like Ethan said. Time management. Control the clock. Run the ball. Great defense. And ground and pound type of game. On defense, my key would be, obviously, we talked about stopping the run. Nick Chubb is what makes that offense go. Kevin Stefanski is a kind of like us. He wants to be a ground and pound type team and take the deep shots down the field to Amari Cooper or Donovan Peoples-Jones, who can be a deep threat. And my third key would be got to convert in the red zone. Obviously, that's been a hamper for us the whole season for past 2 seasons. Honestly, you got to get in the red zone. If you want to be a playoff team and make some noise in the playoffs, you got to be able to run the ball. You got to be able to score in the red zone and put 6 on the board, not 3. So stop the run on defense. Stop Nick Chubb in that rushing game. Stick to what got us here. Run the ball on offense. Feed Brian Robinson, and minimize Carson Wentz and his potential mistakes. And get into the red zone and put 6 on the board instead of 3.
Yeah, for me, it's very, very simple. Number one, it's stopping the run, making them one-dimensional, forcing Deshaun Watson to be able to throw the football. So far, through 4 games, he has 22 attempts on the ground for 100 yards, so averages about 4 attempts per game, so it's basically just like a scramble sort of aspect, so it's something to keep in mind. But stopping the run, first and foremost, is number one. Secondly, it's hog the football. Hall, you talked about it. You got to hog the hell out of it. Keep Watson, that offense, off the field, because if you allow them to stay on the field, they will capitalize on third downs. They will tire out your defense to the point where they can score points easily, and that's not what you want to do. And then going back to the first one, Nick Chubb, 276 attempts, over 1,300 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns, and he has 12 big-time runs so far this season. Obviously, he's kind of hit a lull up until this point. I had him on one of my fantasy teams, so I'm well aware of it. That being said, that is somebody who can catch fire on you if you allow them to. So stopping the run, hog the football, and then my last key to the game is Curtis Samuel. If Antonio Gibson cannot go, I think Curtis Samuel is the X factor for this team, being able to run the ball on the outside through running the ball and passing the football. I think Carson Wentz realizes that Curtis Samuel is very valuable in those medium to short range windows where Taylor capitalized on late downs, on 3rd and 4th down. That's where he would find Curtis. I think Carson realizes that, and so I think Curtis is the last key to this game. I think Washington wins. I think Washington wins 24-10.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit closer than that. I think that, like I said, start off slow on offense. I think eventually they get the ball rolling, get the running game going. Defense gets back to the form and the standard that we've been seeing for the past couple of weeks prior to that second Giants game and the 49ers game. So I'll go Washington gets the dub and stays alive. I'll go 24-18.
Yeah, and I gave you crap last week for picking the Niners. But obviously, now you had your inkling about it. I think we all did.
Look, that was definitely a winnable game. We had our chances. We had our shots to stay in that game. It's just red zone. Red zone killed us. It reminded me of the Packers game from last season. Where
It wasn't the red zone.
No, I'm just saying, like, they got into the red zone a couple times. They didn't put points on the board.
Yeah.
And
Our defense did a very good job in the red zone too, but then also gave up some big points. And I think ultimately it comes down to the turnovers, and those are deeply rooted in the offensive line issues. But hopefully they find some continuity this week.
I will say also 3rd down has been a killer as well. So gotta be able to run the ball on early downs, stay in 2nd and manageable, 3rd and manageable to keep those chains moving. So that's also going to be a key if you want to add a 4th one in there.
Look, man, I've always said Taylor Heineke is Shane Falco, and the storyline is writing out beautifully. So hopefully Carson can come into this game, can perform well from start to finish, get this W to prolong this team to be able to get to the playoffs. I want to see the playoffs, man. That's all I care about right now is seeing the playoffs.
I just realized that I was like, oh, it's going to be a little bit closer game, blah, blah, blah. And I said 24-18 when your score was like 24-17.
I said 24-10.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so
I was like,
you're fine. Yeah, you're in the clear. You're in the clear.
I was like, that didn't sound right.
All right, everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. Good luck to everybody this weekend. Be safe down at the game. Obviously, respect your neighbor. Don't be like that.
It's supposed to be nice out.
Yeah, don't be like that Vegas lady screaming at that young man in his face wearing the Patriots jersey. What an insane video. So don't be like that, guys. Just be friendly. Obviously,
such a microcosm of like the Raiders season.
Yeah, seriously. And but seriously, I have a lot of respect for the Browns fan base. They're a lot like us, where they continue to try to find hope in these seasons, and year after year, it seems like it gets ripped away from them. You know, when it seemed like Baker Mayfield was the guy or that hope for them, it just seems like we know what it's like to be there, So be respectful to the Cleveland Browns. It's a really good fan base, even though the ones that came into the space earlier and were talking crap, and then the ones that show up to the game wearing like Deshaun Watson gear, like promoting the fact that he's like a rapist and stuff. Like, I can understand you taking Deshaun Watson's side and saying that, innocent until proven guilty. But if you're like flaunting it as if there's nothing wrong with the accusations, like that's where it's like, what? You got something wrong going on with you, bro.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. Have fun this weekend. Enjoy hopefully the Hogs feel welcome and at home in front of family this weekend as they come back. I wish I could see Joe Gibbs, because the last time I went to a game, he was supposed to go there. And what was it? There was like COVID or something happened, and he got pulled right before. So enjoy it, man. Coach Gibbs and the Hogs are coming back home. Enjoy it, everybody. We'll see you guys on Monday. I'm Kyle.
In the words of Gavin Strait, the Browns gone Browns. I'm home.
In the drunken stupor. All right, everybody. We'll see you on Monday. Washington football. Woo!
Peace.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!